Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 191. And Aaron, you know, we had a week of hockey. We had a couple games that were actually really surprising one way or the other. And one game which may or may not have been predicted by the great Paul Stradamus. We'll get to that in just a bit here. Before we do, a couple things. First of all, if you guys in the chat could please get us out there to your Sharks friends and family. Go ahead and hit the repost, retweet, share, whatever it is button. Get that out to them. If you're going to be enjoying the show a little bit later on, you know that you will. Please feel free to get them in here as well. Get the chat going. It's a whole lot more fun when your Sharks friends and family are in here with you as well. Aaron, we had a little bit of fun. We're going to kick off the show with this. I know before I get to that, Nick, yes. Okay, Nick, you called me out. Yes, we want the new set. Hey, so do we, buddy. We want the new set as well. We are really very close. I know we said that in the last few episodes. We're on the cusp. Aaron, is there anything that you can say that will help reassure the people that have been waiting for the new set, including myself?
Well, Shang, if I knew that answer, then I wouldn't have. We would have started off better. Well, Shang, if I knew that answer, then I wouldn't have. We would have started off better.
You get two.
Wow. I do know we are transporting the pieces from one house to another tomorrow. So, and Super Douche J does not know why that just played twice, but it did. But we'll be moving stuff tomorrow and setting it up. Slight chance, small chance that it'll be ready by the weekend for next week's show. I mean, so yeah, just kind of depends on a lot of literally moving pieces, getting in place, and hopefully we can be set up and ready to go because I'm excited.
I mean, just absolutely freaking embarrassing.
It's not though. It's not embarrassing. And again, these things take time. Okay, it's going to be very, very nice. You guys are going to really enjoy it. We're really going to enjoy it. And if we have any guests on the show, I'm sure they're going to enjoy it as well because we have thought that through this time around, where we'll be able to add a guest without having to reshape where we're sitting and all these different things. So it's going to be a lot more professional, I think, than especially more so than season one with the cross shots, right, Aaron?
Yes.
No cross shots this time around. Yeah. So I don't know. Hey, some of you guys, maybe that's your thing. I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay. You know what though, Aaron? We had some fun. We had a little, I guess, featurette, if you will, with what's his name? Greg. I'm gonna butcher this last name. My goodness. Aronica, maybe. Aranica. I'm guessing Aronica. Greg. 3G actually.
3G.
Gregg. So he's
3G.
He's known as 3G, which is pretty cool. So he is with SJtoday, and he had us on the show, or on his like a clip of his basically, and he obviously, there's an article right there, and it's just kind of talking about the Sharks and hey, what's wrong with the Sharks. And so he wanted to get someone's opinion on it. He reached out to us, and we were able to chat with him a little bit about this. Now you can see this at SJtoday, and it says .6amcity.com. I was hoping maybe there'd be a shorter condensed version of that, but that is how you can do that. I'm sure super producer Jason will put that in the chat or perhaps down in the description down below for you guys to go ahead and click on and go ahead and check that out. But we do have the video here. It's not the whole article. You can read that too, but he did have a video, which I Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. This was posted on Instagram, correct?
Correct. This is a reel on Instagram. So he kind of asked us to give him a rough 30-second breakdown, maybe 45-second breakdown of the Shark season and what's going on and why they're not good. So it's a very condensed version. There's a little more written out of what our answers were, but this is just what the kids like these days, the reels. So here's the reel of what we did.
We just stunk.
That's the wrong reel.
So what's wrong with the organization right now?
Nothing's wrong with them right now. This is what a lot of teams have to go through to get good, if you will. So
next season, I think they'll be better than they are this season because they have a lot younger guys that are coming up in the wings that will be playing next year. Will Smith, who is the 4th overall draft pick. Quentin Musty, I think, is one of my favorites.
One of the guys that I'm excited about for next season is actually already doing really well this season. It's William Eklund. So seeing his continued growth for sure is going to be something for Sharks fans to keep an eye out for. Macklin Celebrini, that's the big prize everybody wants.
And where are you guys from?
The Fin Factor. We are a podcast about the Sharks. Whether they win or lose, it's still a fun time out at the tank. Great to come down here. And this year was the most giveaways that they're doing for games. So if you're looking at the schedule and you want to come to a game, pick a game that has a giveaway because at least you get something to take home. And there's some pretty cool stuff that's up and coming.
There you go. It was a lot of fun to be. Yeah, thank you, Super Vision. Yeah, it was a lot of fun being able to kind of hang out in front of the tank there and chat with them. And yeah, I mean, we hope that you guys go and check out his article. And obviously, you just saw the reel there, but you can see it again on Instagram if you'd like to do that. Aaron, was there anything else that you wanted to say specifically about SJtoday or Greg or anything in the video or in the article that maybe the people here would like to know?
SJtoday, they do a bunch of different cities around the country, and San Jose's the newer one. So that's only, I don't know, maybe been around for about a year, but I'm not sure what their viewership or their readership is, but on Instagram, they have, I don't know, 60,000 followers or something like that. So pretty big following, and I'm sure it's only going to grow from there. So you should go check them out. SJtoday. I forget what they are on Instagram because I think it's the SJtoday or real SJtoday. I think someone else had, similar to us, someone else had reserved SJtoday, whereas someone has reserved the Fin Factor on Instagram. So we don't have that one. Same situation. So anyway, go check them out. You'll find them. And there's some really cool stuff there. Just if you're a San Jose native or miss being in San Jose and you no longer live in the area, they cover a bunch of stuff around locally, and it's pretty cool. There you go. Instagram, the San Jose Today, or the SJtoday.
Very cool. And yes, of course, we want to thank Mr. Greg for go ahead and having us featured on that. Him and his pink microphone. I guess that's what he's known for there. So pretty cool stuff. Aaron, as I said, we had a few Sharks games this past week. Now, the first one here, we kind of figured wasn't going to go the Sharks' way. However, the Bruins were on a 3-game losing streak, which I think you pointed out in the last episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Bruins showed up for this one, and the Sharks quite simply did not. This is a 3-0 loss for the San Jose Sharks. But again, the Boston Bruins, despite the fact that they were on a 3-game skid, pretty awesome team this season, right?
Yeah, they're tops in the league. So even though they lost out on, or Bergeron retired and Krejci retired, a lot of people thought, including myself, that they would drop a little bit. But nope, they're right up there. They are tied in points with the New York Rangers as the number 1 team. So again, this road trip, like we said last week, was going to be a brutal one. And it was going to be really brutal. It actually didn't turn out that bad. The Boston game, though, it's not that they didn't play well. The Sharks, I mean, obviously the Sharks didn't win. They lost 3-0, but the Boston goals were just, one of them was just elite. Just the way where he placed that shot, just ridiculous. I don't know. I don't feel so bad losing to the Bruins 3-0. It's kind of a boring game. Sharks weren't really into it compared to the other two, but it is what it is. So on to the next one.
Actually, before we move on to the next one, Nick does point out, by the way, that Will Smith, the Sharks' 4th overall draft pick, was at the Boston game, kind of maybe contemplating his life decisions, as somebody said on Instagram or something.
He had no decision in that matter. It was whoever drafted him. Yeah, he was at the game, which is pretty cool. I mean, imagine it for him. He could have turned pro and played, I'm sure, if he wanted to, but he wanted to stay in Boston for another season. The 3 players selected ahead of him are playing in the NHL full time, so he's right there in that pack and could be there. I don't think he would have. I don't know if the Sharks would have wanted him to. They probably told him to stay too, because this year is just going to be bad and he needed a better year for development. But yeah, it's pretty cool that he got to go catch the game and with probably some of his teammates. It looked like, and I don't know if you saw the video of him. He was there. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of hanging out in the crowd there. But I mean, for folks who are used to other sports where, normally a guy who goes 4th overall is going to be playing in that league right away. This is that fine line that we're talking about, right? 1, 2, and 3 are playing in the NHL, and 4 is finishing up a year in college. So that is the fine line between being an NHL player and like right off the hop, right out of the chute, and not, essentially. So even as low as the 4th pick can take a little bit of seasoning. And I think that's one of the main differences between the NHL and several other sports, where somebody can get drafted just anywhere in the first round and they'll probably be on that roster. So in any case, yes, absolutely, Aaron, let's move on, because this is one where I get to pat myself on the back just a little bit. I said that if the Sharks were going to come away with one in this road trip, it's going to be New Jersey. I'm feeling New Jersey. However, I will say that I was prompted into that decision based off something that you said, which was that Mackenzie Blackwood was going to stand on his head. Now, Mackenzie Blackwood didn't play in this game, right? This was Kaapo Kähkönen's game, which, again, we had talked about saying that'd be kind of weird, right? If they didn't play Blackwood here. What was your thoughts on that when you heard Kaapo Kähkönen was taking the net?
Well, before that, on San Jose Hockey Now, Shang had asked about it, and there's I think there's an article written about it, because he talked to Blackwood, he talked to the coaches. This game was a game that was circled early in the season by the staff, and they had asked Mackenzie Blackwood if he was interested in, basically preparing to play that game like months ago. And he said, nah, he doesn't really care. It doesn't motivate him. He's indifferent to it. And then when it came to this week, the actual week, they asked him again, do you want to play against your old team? And he said, nah, not really. So it was more of his decision, Blackwood's decision. It was less the coaching decision. So it obviously worked out well, because Kähkönen had a heck of a game. He had some pretty good saves in there and ended up with 44 saves on 47 shots. So a 936 save percentage. I thought there was a couple in there that early on, when the game was still kind of up in the air, game-changing saves, that giving his team a chance to win. And this is the Kähkönen that I was hoping to see more of, I guess. And I mean, both goaltenders have been pretty good as of late. Throughout October, November's been a decent month. And December is turning out to be much better too. So I think, and I'll get into some more stats a little bit later about the goaltending, but specifically Blackwood. But I thought Kähkönen had a great game and got the win. And it was also the Sharks' first win on the road for the season. They had 10 road losses previous to that. I actually did not go back to the last season. I'm sure it went into more of last season, but in those 10 games this season, the Sharks had only scored 6 goals total. And they scored 6 in this one game. So again, the phrase that I'm going to use is market correction. It was a long time coming. So
I mean, just absolutely freaking embarrassing.
I'll talk about one goal though. One goal in that game, and I hope you saw this. The one where Granlund passed it over to Declare and he buried it. Granlund sauced this over 2 defender sticks onto Declare on the far side, right on the stick, and he one-times it in. It was a thing of beauty. And even Duclair was screaming at Granlund afterwards, like, what a pass. It was just absolutely amazing. So Granlund with the sauce to the Duke. You could say that to any Sharks fan. They'll know exactly what you're talking about.
I did see that one. That is 100% the exact type of play that I want to see all the time. This is like, and at all levels. Okay. So whether this is the Sharks, whether I'm watching my son play with his 10A team, these are the types of plays that get me going. And I love this. Again, you said it. He sauced it over 2 defensemen sticks. And it's not like, Granlund is widely touted as like one of the best playmakers in the game or anything, right? But like, this pass was beautiful, and it just landed. It didn't like land and then scoot to the stick. It landed right on the blade, and it was just, all he had to do is just punch, and this thing went perfectly in the net. I mean, again, these are the types of goals I like when a guy takes a puck and just kind of skates it up and dekes through some guys and shoots and scores, and that's all well and good. I like these better. These ones to me are the best kind of goal. The one where there's just a rocket of a pass and it gets one timed in and the goalie has no chance. And everyone else on the ice defensively is looking silly because they didn't have their heads turned. They didn't have their heads on a swivel, as Drew Mendel likes to say. And you just make them look silly. And these are the types of goals that I absolutely love. So for me, yes, this one absolutely did stand out. And I was happy to catch it real time. I was happy to catch it, period. So yeah, awesome pass by Granlund. There's a guy I watched on YouTube a while ago. It's Johnny Superbman, 2BC Productions. He does NHL video game type stuff for like a GM mode. He calls this guy Granny Smith. So I'm probably going to be referring to him as Granny Smith as the days go on here. Yeah. So Granny Smith is the Duke. So there you go. Yeah, no, it was a great one. Beautiful, beautiful goal. Again, the Sharks win this one 6-3. However, again, outshot. This is the thing that kills me all season long about this team is how badly they get outshot in every single game. 47-18. Aaron, that's 29 shot differential. That is redonkulous. That is nuts. How do you allow an entire game's worth of shots beyond what you got? That makes no sense to me how they could let that many more shots against go, and yet they won 6-3. Bonkers. Again, all the accolades going to Kaapo Kähkönen here, standing on his head, 44 saves on a night where the opposing goaltender makes 12 saves on 18 shots, making them look a little silly. What's that?
Well, one was an empty netter, so
empty net. My bad.
12 saves on 17 shots, but yeah, it's worse. Yeah, 706 save percentage. One thing in common with the two games that were the next one that we're going to talk about. Both teams started their backup goaltenders against the Sharks. Schmid and then Quick. So there's some talk about the Sharks not being respected enough around the league. I said this in the very beginning of the season that we're going to see a lot of backup goalies because the Sharks are just not good and they're going to want to give their starters a break. And we're seeing it, and it's fine because that's going to give the Sharks a better chance to win. Almost beat Jonathan Quick, which, oh man, I wanted that one. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, just that game, absolutely ridiculous. That many shots, 47. That's roughly 2 games worth. Two well defended games worth of shots.
Yeah.
On a good team, yeah. Getting doubled up by the other team.
Oh, this is more than double.
Right.
This is nearly triple.
Right.
Like it's that close.
Yeah.
But this has been a theme for the Sharks pretty much all season long. They've been getting absolutely blasted when it comes to shots on goal. And it's no wonder that the Sharks goaltenders have seen the most shots of anybody, because again, we have differentials like this, maybe not night in, night out, but we're constantly being outshot. That would be an interesting stat if someone could pull that one up, is when was the last time the Sharks outshot an opponent in a game? Because I don't think it's this season. I can't think of a game where I remember them having more shots. Can you?
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah. The only one I can maybe think of is the Philadelphia game when they got their first win. But I don't even know if that's true or not. I'd have to go back and look.
Potentially. Well, in any case,
probably not.
You talked about the next game already, them playing their backup. So you've got the New York Rangers. Now, again, this one, a loss, a 6-5 loss. However, this was a little bit more of what we want to see from the Sharks. We talk about a team that has an identity of not giving up, right? And we've talked about this with the Sharks for the last couple of seasons, since they've kind of been on that downward slope, right? This identity of not giving up, not folding under pressure. And up until this point, several times during the season, the Sharks have been described as, oh gosh, here it comes, fragile. I'm so scared. Fragile. He's not going to do it. Good. Okay, so the Sharks.
I don't want to hear about freaking fragile, okay?
A little late, but that's okay. So yeah, they've been described as being a little fragile here and there. So I think this is kind of one of those games that kind of helps dispel some of that talk, right? As Coach Quinn said, he doesn't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that. This is a team that should be playing to the best of their ability, regardless of the score. Playing for, he didn't say this, but playing for the trade. We say this, Aaron, you and I. They should be playing for that trade. If they want to be on a team that has, cup contention aspirations, they need to get traded off of this team, or it'll have to be a completely different season. They have to get signed as a free agent, right? But if they want to show the teams, hey, this is what we can do, they need to be able to play like this. It doesn't matter if the Sharks lost. They need to play with the heart that they played in this game. So let's kind of get through it a little bit here, Aaron. They were down 6-3. Okay, so they're down by 3 goals, and there's only 7 minutes left. So I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of take over from here. Go through this with as much gusto and inspiration as you can muster, please.
Well, first of all, Duclair's goal, beautiful breakaway goal, just undresses Jonathan Quick. And it was very funny because it was a very similar goal to the game before in New Jersey. He did almost the exact same move on Schmid to score his goal in that game. So I thought that was interesting that maybe he's a one-trick pony and that's his move, but it works. So keep going with it. Kind of like how Couture always tries to go 5-hole. Anyway, down 6-3, 7 minutes left. Normally the Sharks are done. They pack it in. They say they're on the road. We're done. Let's get out of here and go on to the next one. But no, this was very different. The team looked a lot more confident. And only a minute and 34 after they went up 6-3, the Sharks came back and scored a goal to make it 6-4. And another minute and 12 after that made it 6-5 and made everyone go, oh boy, there's a chance here. I mean, there was 4 minutes and 10 seconds left when Barabanov got it within 1. So a lot of hockey left, a lot of time left. I don't know if you remember last year. Last year, the Sharks seemed to be down a goal a lot. In fact, I think they led the league in empty net goals against. So last year, Carlson had the puck a lot, and a lot of times they would turn it over, and there would be an empty net goal. This time did not happen. In fact, Granlund, with 5 seconds left, skates through everybody and gets a shot off in the slot, and it just went over the goal. Had a very good chance to actually tie up the game, which would have been absolutely bonkers in this game. If they go down 6-3 against the best team in the league right now, and they come back and tie the game up with seconds left, that would have been a huge boost for them. But either way, this game was an enormous confidence booster, I think, for the team, just as a whole, that, hey, we can hang with these guys. Like, and in fact, they were leading at one point. Were they leading this game? No, I can't remember.
I don't recall them leading, but I do want to point out the comment made by Alec Hagwood here saying, honestly, watching this game as a Sharks fan felt like a win. It wasn't an easy win for the New York Rangers. Again, that's kind of what I'm going for this season. I want them to be this competitive team still. I want them to be entertaining. And this is that game. This is the game that I'm talking about when I say what I want the Sharks to be this season, right? There was no loss of fight, of compete level. This was them not caring what the numbers on the scoreboard said and continuing to fight and continue to go for it. And you might even say that the Rangers and everybody in attendance perhaps might have thought, this game's probably over with 7 minutes left. Best team in the league, worst team in the league, up by 3. I think we might be able to pack it in. So you might be able to say that the Rangers maybe let their foot off the gas just a little bit here, and the Sharks did not. The Sharks kept pushing and kept going for it. So again, I just wanted to call that comment out by Alec there. So thank you for your comment there, because again, it does kind of jive exactly with the sentiments that we have for the Sharks playing this season. So I'm sorry, Aaron, go ahead and finish up what you were talking about there.
I mean, I agree with you too, Alec. Like that, I'd rather see the Sharks lose a game like that than win a game where they're not even trying, kind of thing. Like it just doesn't feel right. Or when they get blown out 10-1, that's just awful. So still have some bite in them and show that I don't know, that kind of changes things around in confidence levels for everybody. So it was great to see. Quinn was asked about, I have a clip here from Quinn after the game about kind of the same, I guess, questioning of the Sharks normally would roll over and be done, but this seemed different. What's going on and why? So here's a clip set up now for Quinn answering that kind of question.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're playing much better hockey. We've had a lot of adversity this year. I've said this a lot. No one's had more than us. Today was an adverse day with the news we got this morning, but give our guys a ton of credit. They came ready to play tonight and, had a chance to tie it late.
No, the news they got this morning was more injuries.
Well, that morning, but yes.
That morning of New York. So there was more injuries, which we'll get into in a little bit. But this team is, they lost that game, but I feel like they're feeling good about themselves and good about their game. It's kind of rounding off and like I keep saying this again over and over, market correction. They're getting it together and feeling better and playing better, and good things are happening to the Sharks. Beating New Jersey in New Jersey for the first road win, almost tying and possibly beating the Rangers at home. Like, that's just insane. In fact, let me look up real quick. The Rangers record at home is 8-2. They've only lost 2 games all season at home. So that would have been a huge, huge thing for the Sharks.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about some positives coming up with the San Jose Sharks. Before we do, what we want to do is, a couple things. One, I want to remind you guys once again, if you can please hit us with the retweet, repost, share, whatever. Get us out there to the Sharks friends and family that you have. Get them in the chat. Get them talking with us. Get them talking with you. It's a lot more fun when there's a lot more people going. That's number one. Number two, again, if you want to support the show, the best way to do that is through the super chat function. You can also do that with Venmo at the Fin Factor. Any comment that you leave there, we'll go ahead and read it out live on the show. And of course, that does help support the show. So that's one we can do. Oh, you could also go to thefinfactor.com, check out any of the merch that we have available. Anything you purchase there, obviously, again, does support the show, but you get something in return for doing so. So would appreciate that very much. The other thing I want you guys to do is answer this question, because we're at roll call here. What city are you guys watching from? And who is your Q1 Sharks MVP? When I say Q1, I mean we're about a quarter of the way through the season. Q1, who's your MVP for the first 20-ish games of the season? Aaron, we're going to answer that question as we go through some of the positives that you have. Now, you've pulled out a few names. You've got some stats. Why don't you go ahead and fire away? And while Aaron's doing that, you guys go ahead and put in the comments who you feel is the Sharks Q1 MVP. Aaron, go ahead.
Well, Shang, if I knew that answer, then I wouldn't have. We would have started off better.
I'll start off Mikael Granlund. Man, he is on fire right now. 7 points in his last 5 games. He is now second place behind Tomas Hertl in scoring on the Sharks, which I guess isn't saying a whole heck of a lot, but it's good to see that he is showing his worth, for one, and being a trade chip at this possibly at this deadline, because he's here for 2 years. Look at that, 2 years for $5 million. So he's got another season after this at $5 million. But I think that's $5 million well worth it. Because if you look at our other favorite punching bag, Mike Hoffman, who has been getting better, Hoffman is making just a slightly under at $4.5 million. He's definitely not worth it. So I think Granlund's looking great. Fabian Zetterlund, for me, this guy is my favorite Shark right now. He's got 3 goals in his last games, so that's not bad. He's leading the team with 7 goals, and his career high was 6. So he's already beat his career high, which set last year in New Jersey. In fact, when he came over from New Jersey, he played 22 games, I think 22 games with the Sharks, and didn't score a goal. So he now has 7 goals in as many games. I just had it up in 25 games, so a little bit more, but 7 goals and 3 assists in 25 games. He's looking better and better. Barabanov came back from the IR. He missed practically the entire month of November. He comes back and scores a beauty of a goal, assisted by Kalen Addison. This is the one that got the Sharks within 1 against the Rangers. I don't know if you saw this one, but Addison was at the point, or Addison came skating and Hertl found him, and he Quick kind of comes out of his crease to challenge him, and Barabanov went to the right of Quick and had his stick down on the ice, and Addison it's like a shot pass, like a kind of faked shot, slap passed it over to him, and he tipped it in for the goal. Just a great all-around play for both of them. And Kalen Addison's another one I was going to mention. He's moving the puck well. He has 5 assists in his last 8 games, and 3 of those are on the power play. And the reigning player of the month from November, cannot go without saying, Mackenzie Blackwood has been awesome. I don't want to say he's lights out, but he has been the reason the Sharks have kind of turned this around. Saturday Hockey Now had an article called 5 Reasons Why the Sharks Playing Better. And if you're not a subscriber, I highly recommend subscribing. Sheng Peng does amazing work. In fact, he got another person there. I can't remember his name, but some help there. Blackwood in particular has shown the starter is 3-3-1 in his last 11 games with a .924 save percentage, 6th in the NHL in that stretch. For the season, he's second in the league with 10 quality starts and tops with 3 steals. Now, steals they kind of define as somebody who, there you go. Steals are somebody who has more like expected, more saves than expected, right? Like they're expected to make 30 saves and yet he makes 33 saves, something like that. That's kind of the logic about it. But anyway, he is leading the league, or he's second in the league with steals. So that's pretty cool. It's more quantitative stats to show you. It's almost like, okay, if Blackwood was on a good team, what would his numbers be like, right? Like it's showing that he should be hanging with the big boys in the league. So he's doing great. And yeah, that's those are the players that I've highlighted. Now, who is your favorite, Paul, right now for the season? Who would you say?
It has to be Blackwood. It really has to be Blackwood. There's a lot of players that are doing okay, and they're doing okay now. Beginning of the season, maybe they weren't doing so hot. Now they're starting to look a little bit better. Maybe that has to do with gelling, and maybe it has to do with injuries coming back. Maybe it has to do with simply there's the line of, say, Eklund, Hurdle, and Zetterlund that at the beginning of the season, they weren't all together. I think Eklund was playing more with Cunningham than anybody else. So that line has certainly kind of gotten itself going as well. Maybe there's a lot of different factors as to why they may be playing better now than they were at the beginning of the season. Mackenzie Blackwood has played outstanding regardless of the date so far this season, regardless of the line mates that he's had in front of him, regardless of how well the team has played in front of him, how many goals they've scored, how many they've blown coverage. It doesn't matter. Mackenzie Blackwood has played outstanding. So, yeah, for me, he's 100%. He's my MVP for Q1. Now, that may be different come Q2 here, right? Maybe something happens with him and all of a sudden it just goes all downhill. Maybe the Sharks start scoring tons of goals and now we just can't make a save. I don't know. But for the first quarter, we'll say, of the season, yeah, absolutely for me, it's Mackenzie Blackwood. And there's a couple people that kind of share some. Well, Alex says it's got to be Blackwood as well. Peter St. John, I think he's trolling a bit here, says Giovanni Smith. Honestly, I have liked Giovanni Smith's game. I haven't had a problem with his game whatsoever. MVP, no, but I will say he's been a great Sharks addition. He certainly adds a lot to that fourth line. I don't know if we're supposed to call it the fourth line. What do we call it? The second six?
The energy line.
Huh?
The energy line.
Yeah. We don't want to disrespect anybody, but for the role that he plays, he's been doing a phenomenal job. And I've seen this guy streaking up and down the ice. His back checking again. Same thing with Bailey. Bailey's back check. We talked about the last episode. This guy's got legs, and he's willing to work hard. Again, these are the types of guys that we know Mike Greer wants in the organization, in the lineup, playing their hearts out. And Giovanni Smith 100% gets my vote for staying on the team, not for MVP. There's nothing wrong with that. Eigengrau, I hope I said that right, says Zetterlund. He likes Zetterlund so far this season. He also wants a Welshang, apparently. So there you go. Alec is asking if Blackwood's the long-term goalie solution for San Jose, or do you think he'll be traded? Now, Alec, we've talked about this several times over, and actually Peter St. John says he agrees Blackwood should be the guy. And he's also wondering if the Sharks are going to end up trading Blackwood. Aaron, let's talk a little bit. I know you want to talk about them being out of the basement. Before we get there, since we're still on the topic of players and MVPs, what's your feeling on whether or not the Sharks will or should trade Mackenzie Blackwood?
I think he's shown that he could be the goalie of the future, and I think that might be. I don't think they're going to rush to conclusions here, and I mean they can't sign him to an extension until after July 1st because then he will have 1 year left in his contract. He's still signed for another season after this, but he's signed for $2.35 million, and that is extremely cheap. Just to put that in perspective, Kaapo Kähkönen is 2.75. So technically, Kähkönen is getting paid more as a starter than Blackwood is. But I think Blackwood could be the answer. I also think that Blackwood is going to be highly sought after, maybe not at this trade deadline, but possibly next year if the Sharks don't sign him. And for me, it's more of, I think if the price is right, again, anybody on this team is tradable. So Blackwood, they traded a 6th round pick for him. That value has skyrocketed.
Oh,
he
yeah.
is worth way more than a 6th. So, especially with his salary being so low and being controlled, for another season. So, if you were to get traded this year, oh man, they can ask a lot. They could probably get, at this point, they might be able to get a blue chip goalie prospect in return, or a very high draft pick, or maybe a mid draft pick with a good prospect. Like the asset management here that Mike Grier did with Mackenzie Blackwood is amazing. And do you remember the beginning of the season, or when the trade was made, how many people in New Jersey were laughing at how stupid San Jose was, how stupid Mike Grier was? A lot of Sharks fan calling for his head because they traded a draft pick for Mackenzie Blackwood, and they were like, wow, he's really tanking, and he's going to be looking to get Celebrini and be last place in the league. No, don't ever rush to judgment. In fact, there's a lot of people looking back at the Timo Meier trade now and saying how the Sharks are looking to be winning that because Timo signed an extension with New Jersey. The max, I think, right? 8 years. I think it was 8, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
Right now, Mike Grier is looking pretty good on a lot of his trades that he's made. And none of these have been super major, what do you call it? Altering kind of trades, but they are important pieces that are coming back. So I think don't rush to judgment on Mike Grier anymore. I think you need to have a bigger, longer picture of it. And I'm very happy with Mackenzie Blackwood. Now, I would be happy, depending on the return, what the Sharks would get for him if they was to get traded. But I would equally be as happy as if he were to sign and be here for a while. However, goalies are so finicky. I would never want to see a long-term contract, especially for a goalie. I don't want to see 8 years for anybody, especially a goalie, but any player. I wouldn't want to see 8-year contracts. I think 3 to 4 is good because at that point, things could go south. Look at Mark-Edward Vlasic, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Just it mitigates the damage or the cap hit damage that you could potentially have with a player that just loses it. But Mackenzie Blackwood, I absolutely love.
Yeah, the unfortunate truth about the 8-year contract thing is that if you don't offer that, somebody else will, and they'll take the extra years and the money that comes along with it, unless they're loyal to the franchise.
Just like Timo, right?
Yeah.
Do you miss Timo? I don't miss him for that much money. That would just tie up the Sharks for forever.
And I think a lot of people look at those trades and go, wow, you gave up a really good player for next to nothing. However, if we kept that player, we'd be in the same boat that we were in with the whole Erik Karlsson deal, where we'd have a whole lot of cap space on one player and not a lot to do anything else with the roster. We're handcuffing ourselves again. And in a rebuild, he's a great player, but we need to get away from that, not have big contracts that are holding us down from doing what we need to do moving forward. You need that cap space for things like taking on bad contracts from other teams so that you can get futures, get the draft capital, get the prospects that come in. And you can do that by essentially selling off some of your own cap space. So I think, again, it's a shame because Timo was a homegrown, very good player. But in order to keep him with the organization, you'd have to pay him far more than you really ought to be paying any player during a rebuild. And it just doesn't make sense. So I think while it hurts to give up a player of that caliber, I think it's still the right move given where the Sharks are in their rebuilding process. I also wanted to call out Eichengrau. One other thing he said, that he says he really likes Bailey too. I guess he said that right after I had mentioned Bailey. He was agreeing with Hedekin. Now, I don't know if you heard this, but Hedekin did say that there's no way this guy should be kept out of the NHL. He should not be playing in the AHL another game. And I have to say, I agree with him. The way that this guy's been skating, the way that he's been, again, you know how I am. I like these guys like the Ferraros, like Sturms, like those guys who are just have that engine. They'll never give up on you. I love those guys. And you can see it with Bailey and the way that he skates and his back checking and his attitude on the ice. The guy never gives up. And I 100% agree with Eichengrau, and I 100% agree with Hedekin when they say, yeah, this guy needs to be a full-time NHLer. So, Aaron, moving on from the players, talking about the Sharks almost getting out of the basement. You used this phrase several times over. I've been shaking my head a little bit, and maybe we'll get to why I don't 100% agree. But why don't you fire away? Let us know about the Sharks getting out of the basement here.
Sure. There's this chart I came across from J Fresh Hockey, and they pulled it from somewhere else, at least the data and everything, and put it together. But this shows expected. This is, I got to blow it up here. Difference in all situations of goals per game last year versus this year. So the difference of expected goals from last season to this season and what the difference is. The Sharks, as you can see, are dead last. They're minus 1.6 goals less scored per game, or expected to, than a year ago. Obviously, you take away your number one defenseman that can move the puck. It's gonna have some repercussions here. But I think that 1.6 is going to start moving closer to the end. Now, again, I don't think it's going to go past the gray line where the median is. It's going to be more of just getting closer to it. And I think you'll see some of those other teams kind of coming back. In fact, Anaheim's kind of pulling back already, at least in their wins and their standings and everything else. And they're at the top right now. So you're going to see some of these kind of move back and forth between the gray lines. But that's what I kind of talked about, I think, last week about, again, market correction and how the Sharks aren't as bad as what everyone thought they were, let's say, in October. And even in the first part of November, when they were just getting shellacked by teams. So I think they're coming together as a team. They're getting less guys injured, although they do have a lot of guys on the IR still. And again, going back to the clip that we just played earlier with Quinn saying, nobody's faced as much adversity as us so far. It's true. They've had to deal with a lot. I mean, their roster was kind of thin to begin with, and it's still their number two center, Couture, hasn't even played a game, hasn't even skated yet this season. So they are going to get better. They are going to put it all together. I'm not saying they're going to start ripping off wins like crazy, but I think there's going to be a better product on the ice. There already is, I think, in the last 2 weeks. I've been fairly entertained in the last 2 weeks of games than I have most of this season. Most of the season, you're just frustrated. You're like, just stupid errors. There still are stupid errors, but not as many. So they are learning. They're getting a little bit better.
We just stunk.
I guess for me, when I think of market correction, I'm thinking more of like the puck luck, getting the bounces, if you will. For me, a market correction is like the same exact roster, the same players, and it's just not going in for one reason or another. But we're going to see it average out in the future, right? We're going to see it get back to where they should have been all along, right? That's what I would call a market correction, right? They were performing here, and the entire time they should have been performing here. So as time goes on, they're going to start performing here to make it averaged out. Now, anybody listening on the podcast can't see my hands, but I hope you figured out what I was trying to say there. But basically, for me, I when I hear market correction, it's more about kind of the puck luck, if you will. So for me, the improvements that we're seeing, personally, I just think it's just the team improving. I don't think it has much to do with necessarily getting the bounce that they didn't get before. I think it's literally just the team is gelling more. The team is growing more. The team is learning more. Remember, there's a lot of young players on this team. and a lot of guys that weren't on this roster to start the season. It takes time, as someone else had already said. Actually, the person's right here. It is Peter St. John. The roster's so new. With new players, it takes about a half a season to integrate players. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's not so much that, gosh, that same roster should have been doing this well, and they just weren't getting the bounces, and all of a sudden we are. I think it's less that and more just they're learning now. They're like, the younger guys are learning the game better. They're playing with each other better. They're gelling better. Guys like I was talking about before, the Eklund, Hurdle, Zetterlund line. That line hadn't played together to start the season. They started playing together. All of a sudden, it takes them a little while to get going, and now you're finding these really amazing passes by Eklund, set up by Hurdle, and Zetterlund's burying it, right? They didn't have that at the beginning of the season. Guys like Addison, this is an ad, right? He's an addition. Addison, the addition. Yeah. Anyway, nice. So he wasn't there in the first place. He kind of took over quarterback in the power play. We talked 100 times about how horrible the five-man forward unit for the power play was. It just was not working out. They get a somewhat good puck-moving defenseman to go ahead and take the reins on the power play, and all of a sudden the power play is looking a little bit better than it did before. So I think it's these additions. It's not the same roster playing back to the potential where they should have been in the first place. It's the team actually improving. And for me, that actually bodes better than just having a market correction. This is actually the improvements that we're able to see. So it's them not just playing to their ceiling, but it's them raising the ceiling, if you will. Now, again, I'm with you. There's no way this team becomes a playoff team. They're not going to rattle off a bunch of wins. But going back to what my whole goal is for this season for the Sharks, being entertaining, I don't think we're going to see the 10-1 losses. I don't think we're going to see the 10-2 losses. I don't think we're going to see the 7-1 or whatever it was where Quinn went nuts, right? I don't think, and we got all those beautiful clips that
I don't want to hear about freaking fragile, okay?
Like that one. So I don't think we're going to see those types of games much anymore. Maybe an odd one here or there. But I think that has a lot to do with the team simply getting better than they would have been, not back to where they should have been. And I think that's the difference for me when I hear the phrase market correction, right? And if we're going to talk about market correction, there are some guys on the team individually. I would say Cunningham getting back to where he should be. Hoffman getting back to where he should be. Even Duclair, Granlund, these guys, these veterans of the league that, we know what they bring to the table, and they weren't bringing it before. Now they're starting to score. Now they're starting to generate offense. That, for me, is the market correction on an individual level for those players. But again, this team is still last. They're still losing games, and they score 5 goals like we did this week. They're trending better than before, but being in the bottom 3 is kind of where we ought to be. So even if we get out of the basement and we get into, the 30th place, this is where the Sharks are going to be, right?
Right. And I'm just more of saying market correction is in they're not going to be historically bad and one of the worst teams ever in the NHL to ever play, which is what they were tracking to be earlier in the season in terms of not enough goals scored and getting blown out in all those games. It's just not going to happen. So for me, market correction is more of they're going to be playing better hockey, more entertaining, closer games, not huge blowouts, and not making you want to pull whatever hair out you have left, which I have none.
We just stunk.
You could pull some beard hair maybe if you grew your beard out.
That hurts.
All right. We talked about some positives. We talked about some of the guys that we thought were up for MVP of Q1. Thank you guys, by the way, for putting your vote for who you thought was the MVP in the comment section there. I think, again, we're a little bit biased because we run the show, but I think Mackenzie Blackwood. Aaron, would you agree? Mackenzie Blackwood?
Well, the Sharks picked him for MVP for the month. So, yeah, for November.
There you go. So even the Sharks agree with us. So if you didn't say Mackenzie Blackwood, you're wrong. But we like you anyway. So there you go. Aaron, again, we talked about positive. Let's talk about a little bit of the negatives here. Some of this is not necessarily a player that we don't like. It's bad things simply happening to the Sharks. So fire away.
Sure. Luke Cunningham on the IR again. So we got more guys on the IR. Kanizhov got waived, which kind of sucks. So he got sent down the AHL. Nobody claimed him. So he is with the Barracuda now. which is good. You can get some playing time and some meaningful playing time. Hopefully the Barracuda will kind of get a little bit better too with him down there. But having him and Shimmick down there now is costing the Sharks $1.2 million in a cap hit just for being buried in the minors. Because when they go to the minors, I think only $750,000 of their salary is allowed to be moved basically down to the minors, where it doesn't count towards the cap space. That way you don't bury a guy. Now this all comes from the CBA changing, because who was it? Probably Lou Lamoriello was the one that originally did this, where he buried a guy in the minors so that their cap hit would be fine. Always kind of circumnavigating stuff, shady stuff that Lou Lamoriello.
Circumventing.
Yeah. But yeah, 1.2 million that's still on the books because these two guys. And let's see, Shimmick is done after this season, and Knizhov's got another year, and then he'll be a UFA. So I'd like to see that guy turn around, but he is getting passed on the depth chart, and they brought in Kalen Addison, so he kind of took over on the power play duties because he was supposed to be kind of a guy that could do it. But it's just kind of unfortunate. And then lastly, Marc-Edouard Vlasic has been scratched this entire week. He hasn't played in a game since before Thanksgiving or so. So that's kind of sad to see. I mean, that's $7 million that you're just benching. And on top of that, the Sharks have been dressing 7 defensemen every game. McDonald's been playing on the 4th line as a winger. So you're not even in the top 7 defensemen on the Sharks, and you're making $7 million. That's brutal. It sucks. So another 3 years of Vlasic in his salary. Is that right?
I think so.
Looking right now. Yeah. 2 more seasons after this. 2 more.
See, and if you go through with a buyout at the end of, or beginning, I guess, end of the season or beginning of the next one, whenever that buyout window is, sometime in between. If you do that, you still have them on the books in some capacity for 4 seasons.
I think it's worse.
I personally, I'm not a fan. I don't like that. And I understand in the long run, it is actually better, but it just sucks having dead money
all the way
on
around
the books for that long.
Oh, you mean in the long run, keeping him?
Well, no, I'm saying I don't like the idea of going through a buyout. And even though it's a smaller amount, you still have money on the books for a player that doesn't play for you. I'm not a fan of that.
I don't like it because, I mean, we're still paying Martin Jones for
exactly
how many more years?
I mean, just absolutely freaking embarrassing.
3 more years after this, we're paying Martin Jones. 3 more years. So this season plus 3 more.
See, and Peter St. John, you got the right sentiments here. He says, it hurts me every time I think about Vlasic. I hate seeing such a great player wind up struggling at the end of their career. Yeah, 100%. You wish that, he could go out in a blaze of glory instead of, on fire and crash landing. This is not the way that I would like to remember Marc-Edouard Vlasic. I would like to remember him as that stalwart defender who was paired alongside Justin Braun. If Lundy's listening, I said it first, buddy. I would like to remember him the right way. Right now, I'm remembering him as a nuisance, which is unfortunate. He's a $7 million healthy scratch. And that's not the way I want to remember the great player that Marc-Edouard Vlasic was. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is now. And again, as Aaron said, dressing 7 defensemen and your $7 million defensive defenseman on a team that could really use keeping the puck out of their own net. And this guy is just sitting on the bench. So not even on the bench, in the press box. And it's just a shame. So anyway, big negative for me. Marc-Edouard Vlasic still just, not ready for duty. It's unfortunate.
Yep. Sad.
So.
All right. Upcoming games this week. We got Tuesday at the Islanders, 4:30. Thursday at Detroit, 4:00. Sunday at Vegas at 7:00. And I believe that wraps up their road trip. And then they'll be back home. But 3 games on this week and 2 East Coast. And I guess that's an East Coast. Detroit. It's considered East. And then back kind of almost home in Vegas. What do you think, Paul? How many wins do you think we're going to get here?
Oh, God. I can't get I can't get one right every week, so I'm afraid to make a prediction here. I don't want the mojo to wear off. I don't know. You obviously you're gonna know these teams a lot better than I would, being the fantasy hockey guy. So you tell me, New York Islanders, how are they looking this season so far? Who's the guy to look out for on their team?
Islanders are kind of middle of the pack. They're just a tough defensive team, so they don't give up much. And the Sharks don't score a whole heck of a lot, so that's going to be tough. But if they can break through before the Islanders can score, I think they can possibly hold on because they don't have as much of a bite. But they and their last 10 are 5-2-3. That's about right for the Islanders. 5-2-3. Detroit 6-2-2. They've been heating up, and
they got some new guy on their team, don't they?
Some new rookie.
Some young buck.
Heard of him. Yeah, Patrick Kanye. Is that how you say it?
Patrick Kanye.
Patrick Kane joined the Detroit Red Wings, and yeah. In fact, I haven't been following. I don't know if he's done anything yet, but
you know what's funny actually is my brother was in New York on vacation, and he had said that he went down to the hotel lobby, and because really big dude comes in and there's a New York Rangers hockey bag, and he sees on the side of the bag it says 88 Kane, and he's like, whoa. And it was Detroit playing against New York in New York, obviously against the Rangers, and it was the guy that was carrying Patrick Kane's bag into the hotel. So he was like, he texted me right away, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. So yeah, it was just kind of cool that he had texted me about that. But yeah, so very interesting, because I guess Detroit played the Rangers, and then right after that they played Chicago. So it was like the Patrick Kane redemption tour. Like as soon as he got back in the NHL, he plays the two teams that he played for previous. Like how awesome is that?
That's crazy.
But anyway, so yeah, the Red Wings at 4 p.m. Aaron, who's the big guy other than Patrick Kane? Obviously, who are the big guys that people should be looking out for as
Detroit?
Maybe entertainment value, if not just guys that you're worried about?
Sure, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond. They're all very, very good players, and yeah, that's going to be their top guys right there.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Lucas Raymond a name that you brought up before we started the show for a different reason? And we were talking about soccer a while back, and why I didn't like soccer. Was Lucas Raymond the name that somebody brought up in the chat?
Was it Raymond or was it Larkin? I can't remember.
I think you said Raymond, but go ahead. Tell the people. Tell the people.
Hold on. I got to pull it up.
He's got to pull up word for word. We don't want to get it wrong. We got to get. There's no paraphrasing here, people.
In fact, I'm surprised he's not here. He's usually here in the chat. He said, "Hey, Aaron, Paul called out soccer players for flopping. I hope you and super producer Jay can show him the Lucas Raymond moment versus the Rangers." Now, I don't know
Lucas Raymond.
So it was Raymond.
Okay. So I don't know that moment, but there was a moment. Do you know this moment?
I didn't. I didn't have a chance to look it up.
So apparently there was a singular moment in time where a singular player that plays hockey may or may not have, we haven't seen the video, flopped. And so this is supposed to debunk all instances of soccer players all across the world in all leagues flopping. So there you go. It's been debunked.
Not debunk it. I think you're just very narrow-minded when it comes to
just not looking at the one league. Soccer. I'm just not looking at the one league that you're telling me to look at, which is EPL. I'm looking at every other instance of soccer and not looking for it, just randomly just looking up at a TV screen while I'm eating chicken wings, and I see nothing but flops.
A very old and dumb argument is all I'm saying.
Sunday in Vegas Golden Knights. Aaron, obviously this one's going to be a rough ride for the San Jose Sharks. I think we know the guys to look out for, but for those folks that may be tuning in who aren't necessarily from the Bay Area or attuned to this rivalry, who are some of the biggest guns that the Vegas Golden Knights have to offer?
They got Jack Eichel, who's the prized possession that they traded from Buffalo. William Karlsson is actually doing very well this season. He's been he's a good player, but not as good as he has been playing. So he's kind of a surprise. Mark Stone is there. Shea Theodore is on the IR, so it's probably their best offensive defenseman, so he's out. But there's also Marchessault, who for whatever reason, loves to play against the Sharks and always scores many, many points against the Sharks. So those top guys, that's who you're going to see.
Okay. I want to call this out real quick because super producer Jason just put the link in the description or in the what do you call it, the chat here.
Watch it.
Now,
I didn't watch it.
I did see this, and you know what's funny about this? He does grab the guy. So what happens is the guy's trying to escape past, and he's puck shielding. Okay, Raymond is, and the defender's got his stick out, and he's trying to poke the puck. Now, Raymond gets his hand out as if he's trying to push the stick away, like most people do. But in this case, he actually grabs the stick, and it looks like he's lifting the stick to hit himself in the face, which is highly reminiscent of a soccer video where someone grabbed the guy's arm and went like this to hit himself in the face. It happened. It happened. Here's the clip. So not where it went.
I'm sure he thought the blade was sticking the other way, because the blade was sticking the other way and he was throwing it off. It wouldn't hit him. He wasn't paying attention.
Potentially. So
well,
while yes, that is quite a goofy thing. And yes, grabbing the stick, again, illegal. Not something that you can do.
So high sticking is now reviewable in the NHL. I don't know if you knew that.
I think high sticking, if it draws blood, isn't it?
Not just draws blood, but if there's a high stick, they can review it. Because if it's draw blood, you're going to know it draws blood. But they can go back and look now that if it was a high stick or not, or if it was somebody else's stick, like their own player or something, like a teammate.
Yeah. Remember in the old days, people used to bite their lip to draw blood so they can get the extra 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Facts. We've grown since then, Aaron. We've grown. Soccer has not. Okay, so anyway, Sharks Pride. He's shaking his head. Sharks Pride Night. We have a graphic here. Aaron, once you're done taking a sip of that water there, why don't you let everybody know all about Sharks Pride Night? Now, this again, it's not that Pride Nights are completely canceled or anything like that. It's just that they're not allowed to wear the jersey. Right. So there's still lots of things that are going on. So again, let everybody know all about the night that's going to be happening here.
Sharks Pride Night, and put the graphic up. Saturday, January 27th, 11 a.m. to 12:30. It's at the AC Hotel in downtown San Jose, which is that, I don't know if you've been there. It's pretty nice. It's the new one, I believe, right across from Comerica Bank, where I used to work. There's a pregame drag show, DJ, special guests, and you can park at the hotel and walk to SAP Center. It is very close. It's basically right on the other side of 87 from the arena. The Sharks are playing the Buffalo Sabres at 1 p.m., so it is a day game. And it's also a theme. Oh, there you go. The theme night is a reversible Sharks Pride bucket hat. And I had no idea, because I'm not as cool or hip as you, Paul, but bucket hats are back in style. And that is a very fashionable one that is pretty cool, and I want to get one.
Hey, buddy, rest assured, I am not cool nor hip either.
After the game, there's an on ice group photo. Now, Paul and I and super producer Jason went. Did we go last season? We've been twice, I believe.
I think season before.
Season before?
I think season before.
Yeah, this event will definitely sell out. Oh, I was there last year. Me and Jason went last year. I think you were out of town. And the year before, all three of us went. Or the year before last year. So yeah, this ticket definitely does sell out. Tickets range from $33 to $73. 33 puts you in sections 224 to 225, and 73 will get you down lower bowl on 126. A portion of each ticket purchased through this link will benefit Silicon Valley Pride, and I believe the link will be, he'll probably put it in the comments and also in the info below. And if you can't attend and you would like to donate to Pride, there's also a link, svpride.com/donate. And I'll say it out loud. Sorry. sjsharks.com/svpride. SJSharks is the link for tickets. For those on the podcast that aren't watching.
Perhaps we can figure out a way to just put that in a description of sorts in the podcast.
Maybe.
So people listening can just look.
Well, Shang, if I knew that answer, then I wouldn't have. We would have started off better.
God, I love the new clips. Oh, they're so good. Okay, Aaron, I think that does wrap up the show here.
Wait, Paul, are you going to go to that game? Are you planning on going to the game? The Pride game?
It's January 27th. That's way too far in the future, buddy. Way too far in the future. When
I'll buy
it's
my
January
ticket.
25th, let me know.
I don't think we'll be out of town, so I will most likely be there.
Very good. And again, for anybody who's listening or watching us right now, if you happen to go to any of these events and you know that we're going to be there, please feel free, reach out, send us a message on any of our social platforms. And if we see it, we would love to meet up with you outside of a section somewhere, especially if you have popcorn. Aaron likes popcorn. So there you go. And now he doesn't really like the popcorn. You don't like it, huh? What's wrong with the popcorn?
Like the kernels getting stuck in my teeth. I just don't like it.
I don't want to hear about freaking Fragile, okay?
Nice. Oh my God. Okay. Well, super producer Jason will be there, he says. So there you go. Peter St. John, thanks, boys, for another fun show. Hey, Peter St. John, thank you for being here and helping it be a fun show. Again, this is really it's something that Aaron and I enjoy doing, but it's a lot better when we've got you guys in the chat, giving us some comments, giving us some feedback. The roll call is always fun. So we do appreciate you guys being a part of the show as much as us. Now, one thing I'd love to have be a part of this show is a physical set. Aaron thinks that this is going to happen potentially this weekend. Again, we've got actual parts of the set in transit from one place to another to the final destination. It's a matter of whether or not it's all going to get pieced together in time. So hopefully, if all that can happen by this time next week, we'll be talking to you from new set. Otherwise, I can't imagine it's going to be much longer than that. And we do appreciate all the patience that you guys have had with us. Obviously, we're just making it kind of a fun little joke kind of thing going on right now. But absolutely 100% it is coming. And I just heard from super producer Jason that the desk portion is done as well. I mean, the set is basically, Aaron, put together other than it being actually put together, right?
Or it's at his house and it is put together, because right now it's hard to explain it, but the legs weren't on it yet. So I don't know if that's done yet.
It's got legs and it knows how to use them. I guess we'll end with that. Guys, thank you again so much for being here. We do appreciate you. And if you guys did happen to pop over to thefinfactor.com and support the show with the purchase of a hat, shirt, or whatever else, I want to say thank you once again for that. So for super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
next week from the set.
Next week, Aaron, don't say from the set because you just don't know. But we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.